Imagine this. You wake up one morning with a sharp, undeniable realization. You are the same person you were yesterday, and the day before that, and the year before that. Despite all your ambitions, all your late-night promises to yourself, and all the books you've read about self-improvement, you haven't really changed. Sure, you've made small adjustments. Maybe you've tried a new habit, picked up meditation, started journaling, or even overhauled your entire lifestyle once or twice. But deep down, in the quiet moments when no one is watching, you feel it. The same doubts, the same fears, the same patterns looping endlessly like a song on repeat. Now, think about the people around you. How many have truly transformed into someone fundamentally different? How many have broken free from the invisible chains of their past, their conditioning, their predictable reactions? Look at the world. Nations, ideologies, families, and individuals. Locked in the same struggles, making the same mistakes, telling the same stories. If change is so important, so widely preached, why do so few actually achieve it? Why do people crave transformation, yet remain shackled to their old selves? If humans are capable of extraordinary growth, why do most die as slightly modified versions of who they were decades before? Here's the unsettling truth. Something is holding you in place. Something deep, something unseen. It's not just laziness or lack of motivation. It's something woven into the very fabric of your psychology, your identity, your reality. And until you see it, until you truly understand why most people will never change, you are destined to be one of them. But once you do, everything shifts. Let's go deeper. You have been told that change is about willpower, that if you just want it badly enough, if you just work harder, set better goals, stay disciplined, you can transform. But this is a lie, because real change isn't just about effort. It's about identity. Your mind isn't designed to help you grow. It's designed to keep you consistent. The brain values familiarity over progress, predictability over possibility. It doesn't care if you're miserable. It only cares that you are stable. And so, every time you attempt to become someone new, an invisible force pulls you back, whispering, "This isn't you. This isn't safe." Psychologists call this self-concept preservation, your mind's tendency to protect the version of you that already exists. It's why people sabotage their own success, why addictions persist, why the most passionate New Year's resolutions decay into forgotten promises. Your brain is not resisting change because it's lazy. It's resisting because change feels like death. Philosophers have spoken of this for centuries. Nietzsche warned of the eternal recurrence, the tendency for life to repeat itself unless disrupted by radical will. Kierkegaard called it the sickness unto death, the slow decay of self-awareness that keeps a person trapped in a life they never truly chose. And then there's society. From birth, you've been conditioned into a specific role, by family, by culture, by expectations you never agreed to. The moment you try to break free, the world pushes back. Friends question you. Family resists. Society rewards conformity, not transformation. So you stay the same. Not because you choose to, but because your own mind, your own identity, and the world around you conspire to keep you that way. But what happens if you don't break free? What are the unseen consequences of a life spent resisting transformation? Let's take a closer look. At first, staying the same feels harmless, comfortable even. You convince yourself that tomorrow will be different, that next year, next opportunity, next version of yourself will finally break free. But days turn into years, and the person you were meant to become remains just that, an idea. And then, something worse happens. You stop believing change is possible at all. This is the most dangerous part, the moment stagnation becomes identity. When enough time passes without transformation, your mind adapts by rewriting the narrative. This is just who I am. This is how life is. Why fight it? And so your world shrinks. You settle for relationships that drain you, jobs that numb you, routines that suffocate you. You trade curiosity for certainty, adventure for comfort, truth for convenience. Neurologically, this is devastating. The brain thrives on novelty, on challenge, on breaking patterns. When you repeat the same behaviors, beliefs, and emotions, your neural pathways harden like concrete, making real change nearly impossible. Over time, This leads to learned helplessness, a state where you no longer even try to change because you've been conditioned to expect failure. But it doesn't stop at you. Societies, too, suffer when people refuse to transform. Entire civilizations rise and fall because they cling to outdated ways of thinking, resisting necessary evolution until collapse becomes inevitable. History is littered with cultures that decayed, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they feared change more than they feared extinction. So here's the real question. If you don't change, what will your future look like? Will you wake up years from now as an echo of your past self, wondering where all the time went? Or will you break free? Because there is a way out, but it demands something radical, something few are willing to embrace. Let's talk about rebellion. Rebellion doesn't start with action, it starts with perception. Most people try to change by forcing new habits, setting stricter goals, or relying on willpower. But this approach is like swimming against a riptide. The harder you fight, the stronger the resistance. Real transformation isn't about struggling against yourself. It's about dissolving the false self that keeps you trapped. Here's the truth. You are not your past. You are not your habits. You are not even your thoughts. The person you believe yourself to be, the one who isn't disciplined, the one who always procrastinates, the one who just isn't that type of person, is nothing more than a story. A story written by childhood conditioning, social expectations, and repeated behaviors that have calcified into identity. But stories can be rewritten. The moment you realize that identity is fluid, that you are not bound by a fixed self, but are instead a constant becoming, the chains begin to break. So how do you start? First, disrupt the pattern. Change something, anything, dramatically. Move to a new environment. Speak differently. Challenge a belief you've always held. The brain needs a rupture, a sudden break in the cycle, to weaken its grip on the past. Second, detach from the old self. Instead of trying to improve who you are, ask, what if I simply stopped being this version of me? Instead of adding, subtract. Remove the assumptions, the labels, the identities that limit you. Third, immerse in transformation. The fastest way to change is to surround yourself with people and environments that embody the version of you that you seek to become. Identity is contagious. If you want to be free, stand among the free. And finally, burn the escape routes. Most people fail to change because they leave themselves an easy way back to the old self. Make it impossible to return. Commit so deeply that the only way forward is through. Because once you cross that threshold, something incredible happens. You don't just change, you become something entirely new. And that leads us to the final, most powerful realization. Here it is, the truth most people never realize. The one thing that separates those who break free from those who stay trapped forever. You are not meant to change. You are meant to die and be reborn. Again and again. The greatest mistake people make is thinking that transformation is about improving the current version of themselves. But real change isn't evolution. It's destruction. The old self must collapse. The old identity must shatter. Everything you thought you were must be questioned, dismantled, and left behind. This is why most people never change. Because change feels like death. And death is terrifying. But here's the paradox. The moment you surrender to this death, the moment you allow yourself to let go of the person you have been, something incredible happens. You realize that you were never that person to begin with. You were never your fears, your patterns, your past. You were never the voice in your head that said, "This is just who I am." You are something far greater. You are possibility itself. Think about this. Every major transformation in life follows this pattern. The caterpillar doesn't slowly improve itself into a butterfly. It dissolves completely. Civilizations that embrace radical reinvention thrive. Those that cling to old structures collapse. Even in nature, the forests that burn are the ones that come back stronger. And so, the real question is not, how do I change? But am I willing to let go? Because the moment you do, when you finally stop clinging to the safety of the old self, you don't just change your habits, your mindset, or your life. You become unrecognizable. And that, more than anything else, is what true transformation is about. So now, you have a choice. You can remain who you've always been, telling yourself the same old story. Or you can set fire to the past, step into the unknown, and become someone you never thought possible. The question is, will you?